Friends is easily one of the most popular pieces of media to premiere in the 1990s and even beyond. When it was airing, millions of people tuned in every week, winning it 6 Primetime Emmy Awards between its 10 seasons. Following its finale in 2003, Friends continues to see massive success through syndication and generates around $1 billion in revenue for rights holders thanks to reruns appearing on multiple networks and the show's presence on Netflix. It's thanks to this enduring success that the show is now an intergenerational hit, with baby boomers, Gen Xers, and millennials all able to quote the sitcom's many iconic lines. Chief among those iconic lines is the classic declaration, "We were on a break!"
We were on a break.
We were on a break. We were on a break.
Which first appeared in the episode titled The One with the Morning After in Season 3, Episode 16. Millions of people of varying ages, backgrounds, and Friends knowledge recognize this quote in an instant and can practically hear David Schwimmer's Ross yell it whenever it comes up in a conversation or as a meme online. What was going on with Rachel and Ross's relationship over Friends' 10 seasons, and why is this line such a big part of their storyline? Rachel and Ross are now recognized as the pinnacle of a will-they-won't-they relationship and are either madly in love or at each other's throats for most of the series. The two have nothing short of one of the most dramatic relationships of all of television. This video will take a look at how this running gag became a cultural landmark, and how it relates to Rachel and Ross's rather rocky relationship embodying everything that made Friends one of the most popular sitcoms ever made. The setup to the line appearing in the series begins in Season 3, Episode 15, the one where Ross and Rachel take a break. In this episode, Ross Geller and Jennifer Aniston's Rachel Green are having trouble keeping their relationship together as their lives are changing and they have less time for each other. Ross grew increasingly jealous of how much time Rachel was spending with her time Mark, and Rachel grew increasingly annoyed at Ross's baseless suspicions and lack of trust in her. Although Ross was right to be jealous, as Mark confessed later that he was actually cozying up to Rachel because he wanted to be with her. Not exactly the healthiest of relationships, but who hasn't been jealous of a partner at some point? Their frustrations finally came to a head, and Rachel suggests that the two take a break.
Oh, maybe we should just take a break.
To which Ross leaves Rachel's apartment to cool off. However, when Ross calls Rachel later to work on their differences, we hear Mark in the background of Rachel's apartment. This validates his suspicions that Rachel was actually cheating on him. Ross then starts drinking, a lot, and ends up sleeping with a woman he meets at a bar. This iconic line appears in the following episode where it's revealed to Rachel that Ross slept with another woman, and he tries to defend himself by saying that he thought they had broken up. Rachel angrily responds to this by saying, "We were on a break," which she believes to be different than a breakup, and refuses to forgive him. The two are unable to reconcile and end their relationship for the first time in the series. While this is the line's first appearance in the show, it appears in an extremely emotional and memorable moment.
I can't imagine my life without you.
And this is what made the line recognizable to multiple generations of people. What made "we were on a break" an iconic phrase is how Ross would shout the line whenever another character would accuse him of being a bad boyfriend, or imply that he was a bad person for sleeping with someone so quickly after leaving a serious relationship. Were they really on a break, though? Is Ross able to look back on his actions and absolve himself of the guilt he feels? What about Rachel? Is she right to be so angry at him and feel so betrayed? Well, kind of. Ross was justified in feeling betrayed and unappreciated by Rachel, and Rachel's feelings changing toward Ross after learning that he slept with someone else is also totally valid. This clash of feelings and being unable to understand or even appreciate the other's perspective actually encapsulates a lot of the drama in their relationship that played out over the course of Friends' 10 seasons. The rhetoric behind this simple line really helps capture what makes or breaks a relationship. It showed millions that the key to any successful relationship is communication. Ross and Rachel's relationship more or less boils down to a series of extended flings broken up by periods of one barely tolerating or outright hating the other. Over the course of the show, Ross marries multiple women, divorces them, has a son, and has a daughter with Rachel as a result of a one-night stand, which further complicates things between the two. Similarly, Rachel focuses on advancing her career in the fashion industry, dates several men including Joey Tribbiani, and usually ends up forgiving Ross for his mistakes just as he commits to another relationship. It's almost Shakespearean how close these two get to being happy with each other, only to miss forming a lasting relationship again due to some quirk of fate. The relationship between these two is an exaggerated version of the kinds of will they won't they flings that people love to talk about from a distance. Everybody knows a couple that goes from rock solid to tumultuous several times a month, and with plenty other side drama going on for good measure. Everyone loves gossiping and trading rumors about this kind of couple, swapping stories about what one member of the relationship said to another, or debate if this latest fight is going to be the one that finally ends the roller coaster of a relationship. Rachel and Ross take this familiar idea of a rocky relationship and push it to its furthest possible extreme. Just like with real-life Friends, the Friends television show lets people gossip about the misadventures of the people in their lives, the poor decisions, and be surprised by the outrageous things they do. Basically, the main characters on Friends are an exaggerated version of the kind of people that make others question why they're friends with them in real life. Rachel and Ross's breakup and which of them is in the wrong is supposed to be ambiguous in this moment, because this can be the best kind of drama a relationship can generate. How many break room discussions or chats between classes center on a couple that may have just separated and which person in the relationship was to blame? The people behind Friends knew that this kind of drama would make the show even more popular, and they committed fully to it. The line appears so frequently in Friends because it represents how petty Ross and Rachel are, and how turbulent their relationship is. Every time Ross is even slightly accused of being a bad boyfriend, or it's suggested that he and Rachel broke up because of him, he emphatically yells, "We were on a break!" because it cuts immediately to what makes these characters and this relationship so engrossing. The line gets even better when Ross starts saying it in unrelated situations, like when the gang tries to console Chandler after he discovers his girlfriend Kathy cheated on him. In one episode, Rachel convinces Ross's son Ben that she and her father were not on a break before the two ended their relationship. In another episode, Rachel ends up explaining the entirety of her and Ross's relationship to passengers on a flight. Her seat neighbor on the flight, played by Hugh Laurie of House, asserts that it's obvious that Ross and Rachel were in fact on a break when Ross slept with another woman. So now that we've covered the origins of the line, why it's become so popular, and how it solidifies the elements that made Friends such a popular and beloved show, only one question remains. Were Rachel and Ross really on a break? This is one of the most debated questions in television history, right up there with who was the boss, regarding the show Who's the Boss, and does anyone actually know what's going on in this show, in reference to any single episode of Lost. There are a lot of potential answers to this question, and the conclusion any one person finds says a great deal about their character and how they approach relationships. But at the end of the day, everyone has to come down on one side or the other. There are plenty of reasons to think that they are on a break, and that Ross is justified in thinking that he didn't cheat on Rachel. Ross left Rachel's apartment in the episode The One Where Ross and Rachel Take a Break, feeling utterly devastated because he desperately wants to save the relationship, and it seems like she thinks they can't save it. When he hears Mark on his call with Rachel later, it feels like his worst fears have come true. That Rachel is sleeping with him, and the reason she hasn't been spending much time with him is because she and Mark have been sneaking around for a while. In this state of grief, feeling like their relationship wasn't important to Rachel at all, it's understandable that Ross would find comfort in a woman that expressed interest in him. This is especially true considering that Rachel had said the two should take a break, and she thought it would be good for them not to be together for a while. After hearing Rachel's message the next morning and hearing her desire to reconcile, he feels terrible and immediately regrets sleeping with Chloe. Rachel, on the other hand, feels as though Ross cheated on her by sleeping with Chloe. While she acknowledges that their relationship was in a weird place at the time, she can't help but feeling betrayed by Ross. After all, she expressed desire to reconcile when Ross called her, and he was the one who ignored her desire because he became obsessed with Mark being in her apartment. She even reached out to him herself and left a message on his phone saying that she wanted to be with him. In her mind, they were together when Ross slept with Chloe, while Ross thought their relationship had ended that evening, and she had already moved on. It's easy to see why both Ross and Rachel feel like they are in the right. and fans falling on either side of the debate have some strong arguments backing up their viewpoint. This argument and the line wouldn't be a cultural landmark if there was a clear answer. However, the simple fact of the matter is that Ross and Rachel were on a break when Ross slept with Chloe. Rachel told Ross that she thought they should take a break, even during a big fight where a lot of long-standing issues in relationships finally come to a head. That's a pretty big thing to say to a partner. She essentially said she thought they should stop being a couple, while implying that there might be a chance they get back together later, after each takes some time to think about what they want out of their relationship and individual lives. She said that she didn't want to be with him, and was willing to accept all that being in part entailed. Taking a break means accepting that a partner might be seeing other people or doing things that you don't approve of. It's relinquishing a lot of the influence that you have over their life because you don't like how a partner is fitting into yours. It might be kind of skeevy of Ross to hook up with someone else so quickly after he and Rachel split up, but she had to have known that such a thing was a possibility when she suggests that they take a break. So not only were they on a break, but since Rachel was the one to suggest it, it's kind of unfair for her to be angry at Ross for sleeping with someone else. To further cement the fact that they were on a break, Rachel argues to Ross that a break is different than a breakup, and that it was wrong of him to sleep with Chloe. Ross defends his actions while apologizing for them, that a break is similar to a breakup, and he didn't cheat on her because he thought they weren't together. So while it might have been poor of Ross to sleep with someone else so soon after he thought he and Rachel started a break, he didn't cheat on her, and he is right to be upset when people accuse him of doing so. Of course, feelings don't really have to be justified by scrutinizing over events, and a person's past experiences and traumas can influence how someone reacts to something like a breakup more than the specifics of why people split apart. People can feel happy, sad, loved, and betrayed for little to no reason. Rachel and Ross were on a break when Ross slept with Chloe, but when fans argue over whether they were or were not, they're really debating if Ross and Rachel are right in their actions to the situation. That question is a lot more difficult to answer, simply because relationships are filled with partners accidentally hurting each other, and often the feelings themselves are more important than the events that caused them. Debating if Ross and Rachel's individual feelings are appropriate becomes even more difficult, considering how petty and self-absorbed both of them are. This only helps further the feeling of a viewer witnessing the crumbling of a deeply dysfunctional relationship of friendship and love between two people. The relationship itself is like a bad accident. We can't help but watch every awful detail, but we would never want to be in that situation. This question plays perfectly into the premise and writing of Friends, and magnifies the addicting sensation of watching actual friends fumble through their relationships and daily lives. Rachel and Ross were on a break, but in the end, it doesn't even matter. The two of them would have split up at some point anyway, due to their turbulent relationship falling apart and coming back together seemingly every week. And that is exactly what made the show one of the most successful sitcoms of all time. So what do you think? Is there something we missed that proves they weren't on a break? Do you think people like Friends for more than just an elevated version of the drama that happens between friends in real life? Please let us know down in the comments below. And while you're down there, be sure to subscribe for more theories and examinations on classic television and film.